So welcome, Kate. Thank you so much for your time. So how did you start it to be a realtor? What is the process?
So I was I moved to the United States many years ago after spending 5 years in law school. Had my first business at age of 19 and never even intended to be in the United States, but ended up here somehow. And obviously my law degree wasn't good enough here, so I had to find a different job. And after I actually ran a construction company for numerous years. I did management for some startups in the area, and eventually decided that I want to have a free job. I want to have a profession that gives me, freedom of my own time, and I decide how I make my money. I decide how much time I spend, and I've never been really a corporate person. I like to be my own boss, and I've always been an entrepreneur. So
that is when you decide to be a realtor.
Yeah,
no?
That was, and I've been in sales my entire life. So besides, working for my mom's office as a lawyer, but sales was something that was always easy for me. I think I had my first sales job when I was 14 years old.
So how you become a realtor here in California? You had to do an exam, or do you had to study? How it works?
So usually it's a pretty simple process. You can have online schools are available. There are schools that you can go and sit down in class and just take normal classes as any college. It's depending on the person, depending how disciplined you are with your education and studying. I would say normally it takes about 3 months to go through the entire material. Then obviously you sit down for an exam. There's actually one usually held in Oakland, and it's about a couple hours. Multiple questions.
How complicated is it? You have to study a lot?
It's pretty difficult. Like I said, I've spent 5 years in law school, so comparing to that, it was a piece of cake.
Okay.
But you do have to study, and I would definitely stress that if you are a foreigner like myself, and English is not your first language, it will be difficult. So the more you study, the better. The more acquainted you get with the vocabulary, the more familiarize yourself with the definitions. It will definitely make it easy. And most people don't pass it at the first time. I did, but I like to study.
Very smart.
Okay, I'm okay there.
So when you make the exam and you become a realtor, what you can do, it's the moment that you can start finding deals, or you need to find a broker, or how it works?
It's a way longer process, and I think that people don't know the depths of it, and there's really not much education out there, because you'll go online and see the school. You can sign up for this school and then pass exam at this much time, and we'll sell you these books and these exam tests that you can practice on, but nobody really tells you. And I think that's the one segment that's missing out of this industry, is the fact that there's no like a to-do list. I like lists. so they will tell you like, oh, you need to pass the exam, then you have to find the brokerage, then you have to do this and do that. This is how much it's going to cost you. This is how much money you realistically have to invest in this. And I actually might even come up with some sort of like a cheat sheet for people that are trying to get in this industry, because I have like I mentioned earlier about San Jose State, I have some students that are interested in this career, so I've been trying to kind of help them learn the ropes. So you get your exam, and then nothing that you have studied for all these months you will ever use. Which
it's like studying at the university and later going to the real life.
Exactly.
It's different.
Exactly. So it's just basically a step for you to get the license. You need to have a license in order to perform the duties of a realtor, real estate salesperson, as it is actually defined in the state of California. And obviously, if you are looking into being a realtor anywhere else outside of California, you have to pass the exam in different states. Every state has a different exam.
There is not the federal one.
No, definitely not. No.
So every state has
a different one.
Okay.
So if you want to sell properties in Texas, you have to go get a license over there. If you want to sell properties in Nevada, you have to go get another license over there. And there are obviously a couple stages. You can be you can be a salesperson, which is agent, the most basic, and then you can be a broker, which allows you to hire other agents underneath you and have your own
An
Right.
agent is the same thing. It's a realtor or not?
The broker can perform all the functions and duties of the salesperson, but not the other way around. So in order to be able to hire other agents, you have to be a broker. But then, of course, that comes with a lot of responsibilities, liabilities, which most people don't want to take.
Okay.
Like, carrying a high insurance policies and spending money on, on office operations, hiring transaction coordinators, hiring all kinds of stuff.
So normally when you become a realtor, you have to find a broker to
Yes.
start working.
Mm-hmm.
And how you find the broker, why is going to trust on you, or how it works?
Right. So obviously, it's an essential step of your career is to find the right brokerage to this is the industry terminology, to hang your license at, because you cannot perform duties of a salesperson if you're not associated with any brokerage. So that meaning that you have to be performing your duties and operations under the particular brand.
Okay.
It is because of the liability. It is because of, especially if you're a new coming agent, you need to have some sort of environment that will provide you training and that will give you, show you around, give you a mentor, which I was lucky to have. Not all of the brokerages provide those programs. And you have to do a lot of research, obviously. And if you don't have any friends in the industry, it's very difficult to make that decision because you simply don't know.
How did you start it, for example? You were lucky with the broker, or you have a good mentor?
Well, all of the above. I actually, first of all, I have a lot of friends that are in the industry, so that was kind of like an easy transition. I've had, like I said, I've co-owned a construction company before, so I had a lot of connections in industry as well.
Okay.
I also worked for a staging company before, so it was just a natural transition for me.
Okay.
But like I knew a lot of people that work in this industry, and so it happened that my best friend's husband worked in the office that I decided eventually to hang my license at, and that was probably the best decision I could possibly make because the company is amazing. Keller Williams provides phenomenal training, phenomenal mentorship, continuous education, which I think is huge because in this industry everything changes, pretty much on a daily basis. The laws, the regulations, the markets, the demand, everything. So you need to be able to keep up with those constant changes, especially with with the expansion of all the big tech companies that are actually going into real estate, like Redfin and all the online real estate agencies. So, and Keller Williams actually invests a lot in technology, which I love. We are in the center of it, so you have to have it. So I was definitely doing my research, and I didn't want to be with a stagnant, old-fashioned real estate agency because the times are changing and we're in Bay Area. So nothing that is not fast forward, it's not forward thinking and revolutionary was definitely going to be a good fit for me. So I needed a company that is very tech savvy and at the same time provides a lot of continuous education and good mentorship and good training.
When I want to buy a house, for example, that is something that is very different to Europe because you can buy the house directly.
Right.
Here is different, no? I mean, you need always a realtor that is going to talk directly with the owner and is going to sell the house. That is how it works? Or?
So the process of buying a house is a little bit more complicated than anywhere else, obviously. And I know because I'm not for US, so my family owns properties everywhere, and I was involved in different transactions over there as well. However, here, the laws in US are so strict. For instance, on the East Coast, you not only have a realtor and a loan officer and title officer, but you also have to have a lawyer involved. For certain purchases, you can't just sign a contract. You actually have somebody that represents on the legal side that represents you. So your process will be laying out the most simply as I can. You'll go find yourself a realtor that will represent you. And of course, you can go shop around by yourself, and I highly encourage to, go online and read the reviews and find the agent that fits your needs the best. But you are always going to win, and you're always going to get a better deal if you have representation. And against the common misconception, if you're a buyer, you're not paying the agent anything. In California, the only person that pays the commission is the seller side. So as a buyer, the only thing that you need to be concerned is about it's your loan and closing cost. Your agent doesn't cost you anything. It's being compensated by, the agents are being compensated by the seller.
Okay.
So if you're buying a house, those are the only expenses you're gonna have. You don't have to, you're hiring the agent to find you the property and represent you and ensure that from a legal standpoint you're covered, from the negotiation side standpoint you're covered, from getting the best deal, obviously, from finding you the right financing.
The agent is helping also with the legal part that you mentioned before?
With negotiations, yes. Legal parts, I mean, obviously, you can hire a lawyer if you choose so, but real estate transactions are being handled, within the brokerage that has transaction coordinators, and, there are associations, like, for instance, every realtor has to be part of this national organization, National Association of Realtors, which, therefore, furthermore covers you from the liability standpoint, and provides the training for all the legal matters. So so technically we are, but obviously if you have any concerns, you always want to consult a lawyer if those are any legal issues. No realtor or loan officer or title officer is a lawyer.
So imagine that someone comes to Silicon Valley and wants to buy a house. What they had to do, they had to find the deal, they had to find the house. What is the whole process?
So the most simple way, how would I put it? First of all, if you've just moved here, you're, let's say, on H-2B visa, right? Where most people come here, you will have, obviously, your place of employment, but you will have no credit.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with anybody that tries to buy property in the United States, because if you're trying to qualify for a loan, and that's how you normally would acquire property, you need to have a credit. And if you just moved here 6 months ago, your credit is zero, pretty much. Doesn't matter if you had a great credit somewhere else. So here are a couple options that you have. You can either buy cash, because then your credit is, your credit is only important to the financial institution that awards you the loan. And the credit score is, accumulation of all your credit activities that you have performed over the years. Have you paid your bills, your credit cards on time? Have you paid your car payments on time? Have you ever defaulted on student loans? And all those things combined
you make extra points.
They reflect on your credit, and there are 3 bureaus that the financial institution will consider. Out of those 3 reports, they will take the middle one, and this is what they're going to be basing their opinion on, whether you are a trustworthy borrower or not. The second thing usually is your debt to income ratio. So your credit can be perfect, but you have 3 car loans. You have your, Nordstrom credit cards maxed out. You have, student loans that are not paid. And then, you might be making $150,000 to $300,000 a year, but you're spending so much, and you have so much credit, so much money tied up in those credit cards and all those other bills, that you are really not a legitimate candidate for a bank to award you with a loan, because you just have way too much bills, right? So you want to pay attention to that. So with all those things being said, if you come to the United States and you don't have any credit, there are programs that will loan you the money even with no credit at all, with 40% down. So it's double.
For example, one of these programs?
So I actually just recently partnered up with one of the financial institutions that offers, we working on developing a package for everybody, especially for Silicon Valley, because that's my primary area of operations. We trying to develop a package program for people that are relocating from other states and from overseas, because a lot of people working in tech, especially software engineers, come here from India, Pakistan, other countries, right? They don't have any credit, but they still have, great jobs. They have great income. So we're offering them a 40% down loans that would allow them to purchase property.
Okay.
So there's a lot of products, and it will take forever for me to explain it. But those are the options, and there are options. So you can based on your income, with 40% down, you can still qualify for a loan, or you can just purchase property
In cash.
In cash.
And for someone that already have the credit score, for example, someone that has been here already 4 or 5 years, I think that is enough time to build some credit score.
Absolutely.
You have to find a bank or someone that gives you the loan, no?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you always want to shop around. And one thing to remember, when you decide that you are ready to purchase a property, and it's a common misconception when it comes to credit, people think that checking out the loans and shopping around will affect the credit score. Not true. For the 30 to 60 days, if you are ready to buy and you're applying for the loans, you are allowed to shop around for the loan in different financial institutions that will run your credit and that will not affect your credit. Most of the time, if you're going to, a Nordstrom, sorry, I always bring up Nordstrom, it's my favorite store, but you will go and open credit card or inquire about opening credit card. If you're gonna go, shop for insurance policy, they will run your credit. If you're going to, look for a loan for your new car, also they will run your credit. This affects your credit. Shopping for a house loan, it does not. Within this period of time before purchasing, and when you're ready to do it, the credit institutions give you that window where it does not put any negative impact on your credit score. So you're ready, you decided you want to buy a house, your credit is great, you have good income. Next step, getting pre-qualified. Before you even start looking at the homes, the best way to go about it is to find a lender or several. As a matter of fact, I like to have options. Options are great, right? So you want to shop around as you shop for everything else, right? I would recommend going with a local lender, because even though big banks like Chase or Wells Fargo will give you the best deals on interest rates, a lot of times you will get in situations where they're super cookie cutter. So they, for instance, you might have a situation that occurred during the underwriting of the loan, and they will automatically reject you. The smaller local lenders are much more flexible.
What is, for example, the interest rates here in the U.S.? Because, for example, in Europe are pretty low, but I know that people when come here, they get a bit scared. But you go Latin America and it's worse than here, I think.
Right, exactly.
But I think that the US is like in the middle, no? Like maybe it's a 3 or 4%.
So right now, you can get like 2.75, 3, the lowest, and depending on your credit score, depending how much money you put down. So we offer a lot of the lending institutions that I work with offer 5% down with no PMI. PMI, it's a private mortgage insurance, which applies if you are purchasing a home with a lower than 20% down. So from that 5% to 20%, the 15% has to be insured to as a liability to the financial institution that gives you the credit to purchase that home, right? So the PMI doesn't apply to certain programs that we actually offer, which is phenomenal because it adds up to your mortgage payment every month. And then the PMI only applies to until you exhausted the 20% down. So if, for instance, if you put 5% down and your PMI, only would last from the 5 until you reach the 20. And then you don't have to pay it anymore. However, but there are programs for first-time buyers, for instance, for I believe up to $1 million, where you can literally put down 5% down and pay 0 PMI.
Oh wow!
And I think that's another thing worth mentioning. A lot of people have this idea that you need to have 20% down or more, or even actually, as a matter of fact, my friend recently purchased a condo and she put down 50% down. And I literally, cried because her idea was I just want to have, small monthly payments. I don't want to have big mortgage payments. But if the interest rates are so low, you want to keep your assets liquid so you can invest it somewhere else. If you can borrow money for as little as 3% interest, why would you ever want to tie it up all in one
put
investment?
All of your money in stocks, another market like it's US, 7-8% because you are getting for 3 or 4. Yeah.
Exactly. You always want to diversify your portfolio. It doesn't matter where your investments are being placed, whether it's a stock market, real estate, whatever, companies that you're trying to invest in. It's always good to have your money spread out in different areas, just so if something goes down in one industry, all your finances automatically don't evaporate.
What do you think about investment here in the U.S. for real estate? Not buying because you want to live, only because I know rent here is very high. Do you think that Silicon Valley gives you a good rentability, or
Absolutely, 100%. As a matter of fact, fun facts. Do you know that 80% of world billionaires made their fortunes of real estate?
Yeah.
So,
Like
I mean, that answers your question, right? You are in Silicon Valley, the center of progress. Yeah. This is where the technology is being born. This is where the history happens. Everybody flocks here. Everybody from all over the world. Everything that's new, any type of progress that's happening in the world is here. Not in Chicago, not in Detroit. Sorry, Chicago and Detroit, but here because we attract the smartest, the most talented, the biggest entrepreneurs, people with the most drive, motivation, discipline. The most innovation happens. I mean, you breathe in progress. I wake up every day and I look outside of the window and I see the ocean and I know I'm in Silicon Valley, Bay Area, I'm in San Francisco. I'm like, God, I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
I breathe in. I'm like, I'm breathing in history. This is where everything happens. So yes, of course, investing here is the best financial decision you can possibly make.
Because the rentability that you can do every month, or I mean,
of course.
For example, you are renting, or because the house's value are
both.
Because both. No?
Because the houses appreciate and value so quickly in Bay Area. That's one reason, and the second reason is because there is more demand than supply on the real estate market in Bay Area. We're still, in a huge housing crisis in Bay Area because there's just so many people. So many people are coming here, flooding this area more and more every year. And there's just not enough houses to fit them. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense. It's just simple mathematics. A lot of people, not enough houses.
Yeah.
So the houses are going to be expensive. The rents are going to be expensive, right? I mean, this is just...
No, it's only because it can be scary for some people saying, oh, it's 1 million. And this is only for a house. And we are not talking about apartment buildings or another kind of business that maybe people are thinking more different units and not only one. And that is a completely different thing. So I was thinking is how the rentability can be here. Maybe you can make 8%, or I don't know how.
Well,
because it's very expensive, and I don't know. For example, a house here, it's 2 bedrooms here in San Francisco, maybe it's 5,000.
Yeah.
So the rentability of 1 million over, I think that is like a 5%.
Yeah, you know what? First of all, people are so scared of the prices in Bay Area.
Yeah.
But we make proportionally more to what the cost of living is.
Yeah.
I would love to just spend $500,000 and buy a mansion like I can in Texas.
Yeah.
But I can't charge the same amount of rent for that mansion as I would charge in San Francisco. So it doesn't matter if you spend $500,000 in Texas or $5 million in Bay Area. It's proportionally adjusted because as much as the houses are more expensive, so are the incomes higher and so are the rents higher. So if you're purchasing property, obviously, yes, it's scary that the ticket price is expensive, but you're also going to be you're charging a lot in rent if you buy it as an investment property. Now that's one thing good to remember is if you are buying property for investment only, the interest rates are going to be higher, and you might have to put at least 20% down on it.
Okay.
So that's
and the interest rates are going to be high, even if it's your first house.
I mean, if you're planning on living in this property, if you consider that your primary residence, if you live in the property for at least 2 years out of 5.
Okay.
That you own.
You will have to live 2 years, independently. You have roommates or something, or
it doesn't matter
because people here do Airbnb and all this.
Right, a lot of them, and it's a phenomenal market. It's a great, I'm so happy Airbnb, came to fruition because it opens up ability to for people to, make some extra income And for people to afford living here, where they couldn't, because they were facing renting a studio for $2,500, in San Francisco, or even more.
That is half that maybe you are going to pay for the mortgage.
Exactly.
In a 2 or 3 bedroom house, even it seems very expensive.
And sometimes, and yes, of course, you have to remember that that on the first, as with any business, as with any investment, it will cost you money initially. But the value of the properties in Bay Area appreciates so fast that even if you had to put another, $1,000 a month to cover your mortgage.
I have many friends that they acquired the company like 5 or 6 years ago, and they decide to buy houses, and now the value of the houses are crazy. I mean, like a couple of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And almost 100% increase.
I will not stop, and I love to hear all the naysayers. Oh, the new recession is coming, this and that, and the new dot-com, explosion is gonna happen again. No, it's different times, it's different practice, especially when it comes to finances. I mean, I hope the American society, especially Wall Street, has learned their lesson, and I think they have. And the economy is way stronger than it was in 08, 09. There is no more predatory lending practices. There were tons of laws and regulations that were laid down after this entire, recession happened and the, especially real estate market crash. There is, way many steps that you need to go through in order to be qualified for a loan. Back in 08, 09, all you had to go to the bank and sign the paper saying that you have a job. These banks didn't even check your ability to pay the mortgage. There was no monitoring. They were getting paid on amounts of loan applications they submitted, not on the fact that these people actually had ability to pay the mortgages. So that's why there were all those foreclosures happening, because the banks were, luring the customers, trying to get them to, sign those ridiculous, agreements and get into those loans with way higher interest than they are right now. And these people just didn't have financial ability to pay any of that. And they were tricked, and, that was definitely a predatory practice. But this is, obviously with all the regulations that, that were put in place years after the crisis happened, it's way different playing field right now.
I believe that the recession is possible, but maybe the market is going to go down for 1 or 2 years, but later it's going to recover. So I think that if you are more thinking in the long term, it should not affect it. Even the houses can be a bit down. Yeah. Later it will recover. I believe that is my opinion. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not an economist either.
Well, I'll tell you that the recent reports that I've read, nationwide, the prices of real estate are still projected to appreciate by 3 or 4% a year
for this year.
And that was 2019. I believe was something around 5%. The projected nationwide appreciation is around 3.5, 4. I don't want to quote exact numbers because I can't remember off the top of my head exact percentage, but it's a little lower than last year, and that's fine. Because the economy has stabilized. We saw a huge real estate boom in 2019 where properties were selling 20, 30, 40% over listed price. It was inflated. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that we were seeing a lot of Asian cash buyers that were, taking all their money from China and other countries and investing in real estate in U.S. So they will come here with all the cash and try to buy as many properties as possible, because the Chinese government doesn't let them do whatever they want with their money. I mean, that's a smart financial decision, right? Well, those operations were seized by Chinese government that put regulations on amount of money that you can wire in one transfer. So therefore, we saw this decrease in prices in 2019, which was phenomenal because it's actually a healthy trend. What was happening in 2018 was not natural, was inflated, and it was very bad for all the people that live locally and the entire workforce, right? If you have to compete with 20 offers, you're a small family. Let's say you both work, at Cisco, right? The husband is a software engineer, so is the wife. They have 1 kid. They were ready to buy their first property. They have perfect credit. They have good income, And then, they go find the right house, a small, 2-3 bedroom house. And then they have to compete with 20 offers. They're all are, 20, 30% higher than what they are willing to offer. And where are they going to go?
It doesn't happen this anymore this year, or
No.
it changed for?
It changed because the Chinese government had stopped that flood of cash money. They figure out what's happening and they put restrictions on how much money you can transfer in one wire transfer. So it essentially made it really difficult for
Chinese people
for
to
Asian
invest here.
people to to bring all their money here. I mean, they still can, and I think still it's a very good decision for them to be investing here instead of waiting for God knows what happens in this communistic country. But they no longer are able to send them much money as they were before. Therefore, we saw kind of a stabilizing trend in the prices in 2019, and I think it's great because it allowed everybody that lives locally and works locally to be able to afford houses. It's healthy for everybody. Yeah. It's healthy for everybody.
What is your favorite location? You have to buy a house.
Oh my God.
That is difficult.
My favorite location, Jesus. Depending.
Well, I mean, you want to buy a 2-3 bedroom house, and maybe you have a budget for like $1 million. Where you will buy it? Because
definitely San Jose.
San Jose.
San Jose, because I mean, in San Francisco, you cannot buy a house under $1 million unless you want to go to like Silver Avenue or Hunters Point,
Hunters Point, yeah.
Which
it's a new area. It's nice.
As a matter of fact, I think that those areas will eventually gentrify, and they will definitely become new Soma. So if you have a long-term plan, if you're willing to invest something that will give you a return on your investment within the next 10 years, I would buy in Hunters Point. I would buy lots.
Yeah, I was checking that area.
100%.
Because you know what happened with Mission Bay, all this area. It was nothing before.
Exactly.
And now you have the Golden State Warriors Stadium, the AT&T Park. I don't know.
And you think this expansion is going to stop there? No.
San Francisco State and the university and the healthcare there.
Right.
I don't know, everything happened there, and it's like because they don't have the space. So at some moment they will have to develop it.
So you will have those areas like Hunters Point. You will have those areas like Silver. You will have those really, really bad areas that nobody goes right now, but they will soon also become
It's funny that you mentioned, because I moved like 5 years ago, and people say that things now are worse in the city. But for me, I have been here, and I think that they are better. I mean, I don't see as much as 5 years ago. Now I'm going, for example, the 6th Street was probably one of the worst. Now you can walk in 6th.
Yeah.
It was better than 5 years ago. I can tell you there were hundreds of homeless before, and now I don't see as many as 5 years ago. So I don't know. I think that there is some changes in the city.
Oh, absolutely. And yes, there are some changes for the worse, and unfortunately, it's a huge fail of the governing bodies of the city and the county of San Francisco of allowing this homeless problem grow out of proportion. I think that was just really bad politics. It also has to do with the fact that we don't have enough manpower, I believe, in enforcement, police, other forces that San Francisco governs. And it's unfortunate that got into that point. And I've lived in San Francisco for 15, 16 years.
Wow.
And I remember where, that was not such a huge issue. Right now, there are conferences that are being canceled in San Francisco because nobody wants to come here and hang out with all the homeless people shooting drugs on the streets, next to Moscone Center, So from that standpoint, I agree, it's bad. But at the same time, all the tech companies that start opening the HQs here, they brought more business, they brought developments, they brought money that's being spent on the streets and the local businesses. So of course it's expanding, and I don't believe anything in Bay Area would ever go bad, because it is a center of business, because it is a center of progress, because it is a center of technology.
Okay, so well, thank you so much. I think
course,
that we're learning a lot. I will ask you some of the resource. If they want to ask you anything, they can reach you in LinkedIn or?
Absolutely, and I will provide my email and my phone number at the bottom of the video. Okay. Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.